On October 8, 2023, he walked into a Florida bar and never walked out. Jason Veach, a father, storm chaser, and the kind of man who danced like no one was watching, died that night. They told his wife it was a heart attack. The autopsy? Homicide, 4 men, 1 axe, no arrests. What happened inside the Cabbage Patch Bar shattered a family and exposed a terrifying loophole in Florida law that could affect anyone. This isn't just a cover-up, it's a warning. Before the headlines, before the bar, before the autopsy report, Jason Veach was just Jason, a hard-working lineman of over 15 years, a storm chaser who risked his life to bring power back to communities, a husband, a father, a man who believed in loyalty, laughter, and living fully. He was also a proud Ohio State Buckeyes fan, a motorcycle rider who said that riding made him feel closest to peace, and someone who believed deeply in second chances because he had lived through pain and come out stronger. I went from never wanting to get married to knowing I'd spend the rest of my life with him from day one. He raised his son through cancer, shaved his head in solidarity, and then loved my 3 children like they were his own. That's the man they killed. He wasn't perfect, but he was good, kind, the one who showed up when others didn't, a protector. On his last night alive, he didn't go looking for a fight. He just wanted to dance. It was a Sunday like any other, October 8th, 2023. Jason Veach spent the day with friends. At some point, he stopped at the now infamous Cabbage Patch Bar in Volusia County, Florida. Witnesses say Jason was in good spirits, but he drank too much. Way too much. A toxicology report later revealed his blood alcohol concentration was 0.223, nearly 3 times Florida's legal limit. 10 Jaeger bombs, multiple double makers on the rocks. That's what bartenders reportedly served him. Eventually, they cut him off and told him to leave. Jason rode his motorcycle down the street to Sorry Charlie's, another bar just a few blocks away. There, staff grew concerned. Jason could barely stand. A Volusia County Sheriff's deputy was called. The officer saw his condition, acknowledged he was too impaired to drive, but instead of arresting him for public intoxication or helping him get home, the deputy let him go. No ride, no protection, no accountability. Jason was severely impaired, both physically and mentally. He was in no condition to defend himself or escape danger. He was vulnerable, and someone took advantage of that. Jason Veach returns to the Cabbage Patch Bar. Hours earlier, he had been a paying customer. Now, clearly intoxicated and agitated, he slams his hands down on the bar. He yells at the bartender using a derogatory slur. She tells him she's calling the police. Across the bar, a man stands, yells at Jason, "Get the out." Jason doesn't move, doesn't speak. The man walks out, crosses the gravel lot, opens the trunk of his vehicle. He reaches in and pulls out an axe. Moments later, he storms back inside, not with security, not with words, but with a weapon. He charges, swings, strikes. Jason fights back. 1 strike, 1 reaction. But before he can even breathe, 3 more men tackle him. 1 pins his right arm, 1 crushes his left, 1 jumps on his back, choking him. Witnesses scream, "He's done, let him go." But they don't. They press harder. 10 minutes, no release. Jason Veach is crushed beneath their weight until he's no longer moving. What happened next raises even more disturbing questions, and not just about what happened that night, but about what was deliberately left out. That's what they told Jason's wife. A heart attack. No mention of the axe. No mention that her husband was tackled, restrained, and suffocated by 4 grown men while already severely intoxicated. Nothing about the axe-wielding man who initiated the assault. Nothing about the group of men in the bar who pinned Jason down. And nothing about the bartenders who stood by and watched. Police allowed key witnesses to leave the scene before statements were taken. No CPR was administered. No life-saving efforts attempted. And Jason? He died face down, in the dirt, in handcuffs. They told people Jason had cancer, that he was dying anyway, that he brought this on himself. One officer literally said, "No victim, no crime." In the end, no one was arrested. No charges were filed. And to this day, no one has been held accountable for Jason Veach's death. Why? Florida's Stand Your Ground law, a deeply controversial statute, gives individuals the legal right to use deadly force if they believe they are in imminent danger without any duty to retreat. It's meant to protect people defending themselves, but in Jason's case, it protected his killers. The man who attacked Jason claimed he was afraid of someone who was sitting alone, someone who hadn't even stood up, someone unarmed, intoxicated, and visibly impaired. Jason wasn't holding a weapon. He wasn't making threats. He hadn't even taken a step toward anyone when the man left the bar, retrieved an axe from his car, and returned to initiate the violence. What's more chilling? Once Jason was on the ground, pinned, choked, and suffocating, the threat was over. He wasn't fighting back. He wasn't moving. But they didn't stop. And the law? It didn't protect Jason. Critics argue Florida's Stand Your Ground law has been abused, misinterpreted, and weaponized. In this case, it became a shield for aggression, not defense, a way to justify violence after the fact. So we ask again, is this justice or a dangerous loophole? Stand your ground or stand down? Jason Veach deserved better. Jason's widow has filed lawsuits, one against the Cabbage Patch Bar. She's preparing another against the Volusia County Sheriff's Office and one more against the men who took her husband's life. But justice? It's still missing. They laughed about killing him. Not one person apologized. Not 1 ounce of remorse. This story isn't over, because stories like Jason's never really end. They echo, through families, through broken laws, through silence. You can help. Sign the petition, share this video, comment your thoughts, demand reform of Florida's Stand Your Ground law. They said there was no crime, no victim, but there was Jason Veach, and there is a widow who still hears the silence of a door that never opened again. Ask yourself, if this was your husband, your father, would you accept no victim, no crime as the final answer?